The ask originally came from a VP of marketing. They just knew that they didn't have insight into the customer journey. And so they brought me in, we did a discovery call, and they said, I think that our issue is XYZ, and we're bringing in all these marketing leads, but they're not converting into sales. And so I took a look, and it turned out that they had no insight into what their process looked like, from like how they were creating the content and even choosing what to put their time and energy into as far as like a campaign goes, into like what actually converted them, who got onto their website, like what day, what specifically made them go onto their website. Like all that information was missing. And so I went back to the team and I looked at their process, and I just spent a week shadowing them, and they were spending, 8 hours building a campaign brief and 5 hours performing competitive intelligence, and all this time spent planning and actually ideating before they even got a V1 off the ground, which was then just so many cooks in the kitchen. It was just being broken apart and piece by piece. And it was just this huge time sucking and effort. And what we ended up finding was all we really needed to do was automate was a campaign. Like, what did a campaign actually mean? And get those definitions from leadership and automate the campaign brief process so that if there was a need or an ask from a senior leader for a campaign to be created, they had to fill out a form that justified that it was tied to an SI or, a large KPI that the business had. And like, what was the specific research or points that they felt were compelling enough to build this campaign, and automate that process so that by the time it got into the hands of marketers, they could easily say, okay, this is justified. We know that there was multiple eyes on this. We know there's a need for it. And then the next step was they sent it through an AI agent that performed all the competitive intelligence for them and pulled 10 quotes from research analysts. So now they had their research, they had reputable quotes that backed up everything that they were going to say before they even created the actual assets. So just a lot more time spent automating processes, which were ultimately communication and stakeholder approval mapped out across different geographies, and then like expediting the rest of the process so that it could actually get to the folks that were writing the content, and they could spend the bulk of their time writing it, getting feedback. And that's exactly what happened. They ended up being able to have extra time to talk to the heads of product or engineering that they usually wouldn't get to because it had to get out the door so fast. But those certain perspectives from those seats, especially engineering, oftentimes are missed. And they are so valuable on different levels because you can only speak to everybody in a certain way that you're used to. But if you get different voices in there, then you've got a little bit of everything for everyone. So in order to actually take a campaign from ideation to live, it was 3 months. Pre-AI, post-AI, it was 45 minutes because of one agent and one automation tool.